All right, this is the final video in this series. This is the home stretch. We've built out the set, our permit set of drawings. All we got to do now is annotate it. And I'm telling you, this is the fun part because LayOut has this really lean tool set where, we have like dimension tool, label tool, text tool, but also we have like the ConDoc Annotation Scrapbook. So all the settings are already baked in. You just got to use that scrapbook as a palette and as kind of your resources, your library. So in this video, I'm going to show you all my tips and tricks for dimensioning and annotating and really putting the final polish on these drawings. Let's get to it. All right, so when it comes to buttoning up these drawings, I guess the first thing I would do is get them labeled. So with our scrapbooks panel, I can go to my ConDoc Annotation Scrapbook. And the first page is palette. And this will come into play in just a moment. For now, let's go to the second page. And I'm going to go with a drawing title. And the first one, this is good for like presentation drawings, whereas this one is really good for like construction documents. So I might just add one, and then I'll make a copy holding Control and Shift, and then I'll type 2x enter to get two of those. That's kind of looks like an error with the auto text. Let me undo that. Let's just do this. We'll do one at a time. There's one, and then here's two. All right, that's an error too. All right, let's try something here. Let's see if we can get this fixed. These are issues that you guys are going to come up with. I'm going to hit renumber sequence. So I just jumped in there and hit renumber sequence, and then let's see what happens if I make a copy and do 2 times. So there's an issue with the array. All right, so we're not off to a good start. I'm going to renumber the sequence, and then I'm just going to make a copy. And we'll do 1 copy there and 1 copy there. All right, and then we'll make a copy down like this. There's 4, and we could call that 5. And so this will be let's call this like I guess what I often do is just say like plan, and then give it a description of foundation. Like that, and then we'll do plan. Maybe I should have done this first. So plan, and then we'll do construction on this one. Well, actually, we're going to do 01 or level 1 even. Level 1, like that. And I would typically call this a construction plan, like that. And so we'll do construction plan again, like that. And then I'll jump to the end, and we're going to call this level 2, like that. All right, so yeah, that's fine. Plan, foundation, whatever. However you like to name yours. And then this is going to be a roof plan, plan roof, this. And then this is going to be at 1/8 inch, like that. I typically do not use there are some auto text features that'll pick up the scale of a drawing. I just prefer to manually punch it in, and this will be like perspective, like this. We'll say perspective, and then I'll give this perspective 01, and then we'll say I'll just say no scale. So like this, like that. Okay. So that looks pretty good. And then, we can go to the next page, and then we can just add these in there as well. So let's see if this does any better, like that. And then I'm curious if it'll get my 3 and 4. Let me undo that. We're going to get clever. We're going to do elevation. And then you could say like, let's just, I'm not sure what is north, south, east, west, but whatever it would be is what it is. So I'll copy this. This is like really an issue with the auto text. I wish that SketchUp was better about this. It's not working properly. See, because it's like remembering that I had other instances. So let me renumber this, and then let's see if we can make that happen. And then hopefully that would be 3. So I guess, you know, with auto text, you just really got to kind of do it one at a time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, elevation north, and we'll just do northeast, and I think this would, you know, logically this would be south, and like that, and then west. All right, like that. All right, and then finally we could have, you know, some more drawing titles on there like that. All right, so let's just do it right. Okay, so we'll say section, and this is going to be like BB, and then the scale on these guys is going to be 1/2 inch equals a foot, and on this page this is going to be section AA, like that, and that's going to be 1/2 inch equals a foot, like that. All right, so that looks pretty good. You know, I think, again, this is, you know, I'm just trying to like show you guys the real world workflow of kind of how I would go about this. So, you know, at this point, I guess let's just call out a few tips and tricks over here. You know, I would say, you know, really when it comes to, you know, with a set of plans, I know everyone's going to have an opinion, and even when it comes to dimensioning and all that, there's going to be a lot of opinions. There's no right or wrong way. There's a couple right ways to do it. Let's put it that way. You know, it depends on what you need to call out. So like if you needed some interior elevations, you know, you could, you know, call those out like this, you know, so that's really quick and easy. You know, when it comes to like a north arrow, let's throw that in there. That's going to be handy. A graphic scale is kind of nice for a site plan. You know, when on the site plan, this is kind of cool. Like we're looking at, you know, we're kind of like looking at it like this. So you can like scoot that arrow over, or that precise move grip, and kind of show like, you know, where you're looking from to see this guy. And so let's do some dimensioning. You know, this would be like a good example here. Let's go to the first page. And when I activate the dimension tool, here's something that's confusing about layout, but I've actually grown to really like the way this works. All right, the dimension tool, it has properties in the text style, dimension style, and shape style dialogues. All right, so when my tool is active, you know, the font that we're going to use, let's use something kind of goofy like this. I have some unique fonts, Visage Outline. I want my dimension color to be green. You know, we're just doing something goofy. I want to use kind of wonky arrows. All right, we're just going to do something strange like that. That all looks good. The stroke, we'll make it blue. All right, so these are going to be the most goofy looking dimensions ever. All right, like that and like that. All right, so like, you know, I'm just pointing out that the dimension tool has properties in all these different dialogues. Well, I can tell you that if you're messing around these dialogues on a daily basis, you're doing it wrong. All you need to do is to put your cursor over here and see how my cursor turned into an eyedropper. Well, this can be used as a palette. And when I click this, it just reset all my dimension properties to be that. Look at that. So, you know, when in doubt, all you need to do is just activate your dimension tool, click over here, and then you start dimensioning. All right. And then you can double click, and then you can double click and double click and double click to continue the string of dimensions. If a dimension is kind of overlapping like this guy here, you can select it. You can double click on it, but I find it kind of cleaner to hit enter. And then you can kind of scoot that over to a different position like that. I can go back to my dimension tool and maybe give it an overall if you're into that. That works. All right, and then let's say that, you know, I want to continue dimensioning on this side, like this, and see how my dimensions are on the inside. Personally, I kind of like them on the outside, kind of like I did on the top there. While this dimension is active, I can actually go over here and click on that and get, change my properties like that. And then I can double click, and we'll double click, and then we can run an overall like that. So, you can see how with layout, you really got to know how to use this, because the obvious thing to do would be to activate the tool and then to always be messing around in your shape style. The clever way to use this program is to use this palette. That's the ideal way. All right, so that's some dimensions. And also I might say this too, like maybe you say this dimension, I actually want like the text style, I want it to be this guy, I want it to be it is bold. I don't know, maybe you want it to be black like that. I don't know. Well, you can like select a dimension, and then you have this style tool. So you could say like, I want to soak up the properties of this dimension like that. All right, but I don't actually want to do that. One other thing to note about dimensions is that you get into this kind of not level, like level of precision is what we're getting at. So if I select this dimension and look at its properties, I always keep all of my precision settings maxed out. All right, so first off, in SketchUp, when you're looking at your model info under units, you want this to the display precision. This actually it should be at 64th is where I always keep it. I can tell you the reason it's not is because I was trying to clean up the demo files so that it would prompt for the levels, and I used a random template, and that's why this didn't show up. But I can tell you that this should always be at 64th of an inch, or as high as it can be. I sincerely dislike length snapping, but it really doesn't matter because I almost always type in my dimensions anyway. And then this should just be maxed out. So at all times, whenever you're modeling, I don't want I don't want to draw a line at 3/64ths of an inch, but it tells me it's a 1/16th of an inch or something. That's not ideal. I want to know, is this a weird dimension that I just agreed to? So the only way to know that is to really dial up your display precision like that. All right. And then when you're over in layout, your dimension precision should be at 64th. And what you get into is if you had some weird, really ugly dimension, you could force it to be, okay, round it to the nearest half. But that's kind of cheating. And hey, sometimes you find yourself in a situation where you're like, look, man, I just needed to look this way and move on with my life. And that's okay. But if you keep your SketchUp model clean, that's going to keep your layout dimensions clean. So always keep all those maxed out, and these guys are always already set to that. All right, so just a little bit about dimensioning in layout, and let's see, so that kind of all makes sense. When it comes to window schedules, let me see if these are even working. I forget if I use this for this model. If I add leader text, I'm wondering if, yeah, there you go. So these windows, the ConDoc doors and windows will report a width, height number like 3050. You can see it there. All right. So the way you get to that is you activate your, was it label tool? Yeah, label tool. And then you got to snap to a point on that window and click. All right. And then you click again and click again. All right. And then you got to click this little blue arrow. And then under ConDoc, you can see that we have this, there's a window tag that you can add like a prefix in the dynamic component. All right, so then we get this window tag. All right, click. Okay, so now it's a 3050. Now, I don't, this isn't the way that you would actually like label that window. So what I need to do is set my shape style for my stroke. The stroke defines, this little arrow, this leader. That needs to be set to opacity of 0. And then I can just kind of, set this down there. So now you're soaking that up. If that window were to change, it would update your tag here. Although I don't totally rely on that. But it's kind of a nice way to, kind of work. So, you should be able to like, grab this and just soak it up. No, that doesn't. I feel like that used to work. It does kind of stick to, the same 3050. All right. But notice that like I got my leader text back. All right. So watch this. With the tool active, I'm going to tap S. Well, I want to soak up these properties. And now I can, snap here and then, place my text and then just get out of it. So now, you don't have to keep going back into your shape style dialog. All right, and just know that in SketchUp, I believe that, we're looking at this little grouping, like, this, well, let's look at this bedroom. All right, so it's this guy here. You can right click and you can go to dynamic components, component options. And that's where you're going to get like, the tag prefix. And if you were to modify that window, it would update the 3050. All right, so the reason I was saying that is because me personally, I like to make more of like permit design sets. And that's where this width, height comes into play. You do also have the ability to, add some, window tags. And the auto text works a lot better on those tags. And then you could, scroll to the end here and you could add a window schedule, a different spot in your drawing set, but I don't typically use those. I like to just kind of call out what the rough opening is, and then somebody else is really going to dig in and make those final decisions. I always say I want to have a builder who shares the vision on board, and I'm not the guy that's going to make all those decisions. All right, so that's a little bit on that, and let's get back over here, and let's go to the next page. All right, so I've got some more tips and tricks on these elevations. For these, I go to this, first page. I would activate my line tool, and then I want to draw a nice wide line. So all I need to do is put my cursor over here. And you can see the stroke is set to 5. See now it's 0.15. Now it's 1.5 in red. So I don't want to ever have to be messing in that shape style. And for my elevations, typically I would just like draw this ground plane. Yeah, and this, like, what's the right way to say it? It's like it's not perfect, right? Like it's never going to be perfect. Like it's just because you're like slicing through that SketchUp terrain. What is perfect is your finished floor height. So this is more like just a graphic representation. I'm not going to like call out this. So I just kind of draw like a nice thick line. All right, and then I'm going to select it and I'm going to copy it. So Control C, and then I'm going to finish off this shape, and I'm going to be kind of loose about it, like this and like that. All right, so this, I want it to be like a full-on fill, all right, where it's just a white mask that's going to lay over top of this. All right, so watch this. I'm going to hit edit on here, and I'm going to open up that scrapbook. And I don't know. I don't really use, I wouldn't really use a red fill. All right. So I'm going to go to shape style, and I'm going to change this to be white like that. I'm going to close it and save it. And check this out. Now my scrapbook is updated. So just know that you can always modify this scrapbook. You can change the fonts and anything you want. Just hit edit. All right. So now with this, this shape selected, I can tap S, and then I can say, yeah, let's make it white, like that. And if you remember, I copied that line, so I'm going to paste it. So there you go. So now you've got like a nice, clean, heavy ground plane on here. And so, I could do the same thing. I'll do it kind of fast this time. So, using, and I sampled, I'm going to go sample like I did before. And we're going to get to here. And then we're going to go to here and to here, like that. I'm going to select it, copy it. We're going to finish off this line like that. And now I might even just, tap S and sample right there because I know it exists. I'll paste right back in place like that. So it's, it's a little bit of like a hybrid technique, and the way that you kind of clean up your drawings and layout. Like this level of overlay in layout affecting how the drawings look, I think is very acceptable. I would not use this technique to like block out a wall, or I don't know, just, like go build the model the way it should be. If something doesn't look right, go back into SketchUp, get it updated, retag it and do it right. So this is just a good way to kind of like, put that final polish. It would be really hard to get like this really heavy ground plane in SketchUp and stack the viewports like that. So that's really why I'm doing it like this. But I was surprised, somebody a while ago showed me a demo in Revit, and I had asked them, like a friend of mine who's an architect in town here in Denver, and I just said, yeah, I just want to sit next to you and I want to watch you work in Revit. I was floored at like how much of this type of thing was going on to make the drawings look right. Where, I think that the way that SketchUp and LayOut works, it's really like this perfect medium in between of, giving you the flexibility to get it to look right in SketchUp and then putting that polish on it in LayOut. So let's keep clicking around, see if there's any more tips and tricks, and we'll wrap it up here soon. All right, so these drawings, at least these top two, look pretty good. And let's see, here's some sections. If I go through here, we do have some scaled characters as well. And these guys kind of work well for the section. So, you could pick like a scaled character like this, and man, she's tiny, right? Well, these are scaled, so you can right click and you can go to scale, and instead of 1/4 inch, we can go to 1/2 inch. So now that's the proper size for her. So all these cutouts are actually scale figures, scale drawings in LayOut. With that in mind, this would be kind of an interesting technique too. Typically, if I wanted a section, like a wall section, I would re-export this. And hey, I think this is going to be a good little example or demo to kind of finish things up. Let me do this. I'm going to scoot this to the side, and let's just imagine that we want to create like a new wall section of this. All right, so let's go back into LayOut. This was section AA, and so what I would do is I would re-export section AA, and maybe I would put it, instead of 1/2 inch, let's just say we're going to do like 1 inch equals a foot. All right, I'm just making stuff up at this point. Send to LayOut, and remember, you always want to go back. We're good. We're not on the ConDoc drawings, so we'll say okay, got it. So now we're going to kick out that same section at 1 inch equals a foot. And so now I can go in here to my ConDoc drawings, and then I can drop that section in there. All right, so remember, we're just making this into like a wall section, or let's call it like a foundation section or something like that. Like this and like this, and then put that on there like that. Okay. So what I want to get at is that you have this kind of a background, right? So we could right click and we could like lock that, and then what you could do is you could There's a couple different ways to do this, but I just kind of want to show you this one feature, which is a scale drawing. If you like wanted to trace this, like, I'll just kind of do something loose like this and like that, and then let's just say you've got like this drawing in there, and I'm gonna go to my ConDoc annotations again, and then I'm gonna tap S and sample something here. All right, I'm gonna unlock this, and I'm gonna move it to a layer, and I'm gonna actually add a layer, and I'm gonna call it backgrounds, like that, and then I'm gonna put the backgrounds below my drawings. All right, and I'm gonna move this to the layer backgrounds, and then I'm gonna turn it off for a moment. All right, so now this is on my layer drawings, and let's just make sure that we finish off that shape. And so then I can right click on this and I can make it a group, and then I can right click on it again and I can give it a scale, like 1 inch equals a foot, because I want to match what's happening with my background. And I'm going to lock my background, and now I can double click in to my scale drawing. And so if I wanted to draw, like, say I wanted like a I don't even know, like a perimeter drain or whatever, that's going to be this drain is going to be like a 4-inch pipe. So I type 2 enter, and I want it to be like 12 inches off of there, like that. And then I can turn off my backgrounds and start working. I can trace over this thing, like, so you have this ability to draft inside of LayOut, which I think is really, really powerful, for creating details. Another way to go about this too would be, let's just delete this, would be to take your background and then just right click and ungroup, and then let's get our I actually think I have a okay, we're gonna right click and explode. Okay, so when I explode a vector viewport, see how it's at 1 inch equals a foot? You can kind of see that little scale there. So now I can like go in and start getting rid of some of this stuff, like delete out my fence, delete this stuff out of here, delete. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to go about starting a detail in LayOut, and that would be one of them. So now you just got to go through and kind of clean it up and work it that way. So anyway, got some options. Let me just take one more lap through here. Yeah, we talked about sections, cleaned up our elevations. If you want to add some more ConDoc annotations, let's see, you've got like on this next page here, you've got these different levels, if like level 1, level 2, and you just double click in and stretch it across. So it's really just, once you understand how to use the tools in LayOut, it's very simple, really. I dig it. All right, well, hopefully that was helpful, just to kind of see, I don't want to go through and actually build the entire set. I think it's, if you just see one elevation done, one section done, one detail, you can put it together. I'm confident that you've got that. So give it a try, and let me know in the forum, or shoot me an email, or if you're really banging your head against the wall, I don't want you to be frustrated. So don't hesitate to call me at the office, 720-443-3242. I'm pretty generous with my time, and I always tell folks, the first 10 minutes is free. So if you just need like to get the nudge forward, something's just driving you nuts, I'm telling you, I know this system inside and out. So usually if you ask me a question on the phone, I can explain it rather quickly. Emails are kind of tough. They tend to get buried. It takes some effort to respond. It takes many days to go back and forth. So anyways, whatever's good for you, please don't be frustrated. Reach out. And I really do appreciate your support. Thank you for being a ConDoc customer. And I'll see you in the next video. Talk soon.